Hi, this is Rajiv from Law Offices of Rajiv S. Khanna PC, immigration.com. Here are some questions from our corporate employers. What has happened is that because a lot of people are getting laid off, there is a lot of availability of part-time and shorter duration work and projects that need to be completed, but there's not enough people for it. So here are the 6 questions that I'm being asked from our corporate clients. So first question is, there are employees who are currently working for big companies, but they got furloughed and they want to join us on part-time basis. So can they join us? And the answer is yes. If there are employees who've been furloughed by larger companies and you have projects that you need handled and you want to hire them, whether full-time or part-time, the only recommendation I have is get the H-1Bs for them filed within 60 days of their furlough, because furlough is not legal. Okay, so file their H-1Bs within 60 days of their furlough when it began. They can start working as soon as the H-1B is received by the USCIS, as long as it is received within 60 days. And the H-1B can be part-time, full-time, and if you have a sliding scale, for example, you have some projects that are going full-time, some could go part to full-time, it is permissible to have a sliding scale, for example, 20 to 30 hours, 30 to 40 hours each week for an H-1B. But there are a couple of catches there. One is that the salary must be enough for the employee to be able to meet their needs for income. So sometimes we even end up getting a request for from the USCIS for proving that the employees can survive with the amount of money they would make. So if their monthly budget is $4,000, you must be, even if you pay them part-time, it must come equal to or exceed their budget. Next question is, there are OPTs and CPTs who were picked up in electronic lottery, and they want to join us on part-time H-1B. There's only one problem with that. The registration belongs to the employer. I don't know of any way of transferring the registration over to another employer. So if they get their H-1B processed and approved with the employer who did the lottery, they can simultaneously join us on a part-time H-1B. That is not a problem. So you can have a full-time H-1B and a part-time H-1B run concurrently, or 2 part-time H-1Bs. I once had an employee who did 4 concurrent full-time H-1Bs. And when the government questioned, we were able to show that he was a very senior level Oracle DBA, and all he had to do was to be on call. Once the initial databases were set up, he just had to be on call and he got paid full-time for that work, and he could do it with 4 companies. Next question, some of the employees who used to work with us now want to come back on an H-1. That's a very easy one. If you transfer them back, it's just like a regular transfer. We just have to get the petition filed. Once it is filed, they can start working on your projects. Very high-skilled H-1Bs who are working remotely due to COVID, they want to join part-time remotely for 20 or less hours. Absolutely. Remotely working or working from your sites is perfectly okay. It's the same thing as far as we are concerned. What you are talking about is a concurrent part-time H-1B. That is perfectly permissible. Once again, you can start them working as soon as the petition is filed. Then the 5th question is, how about straight H-1B transfers who are laid off and they want to join us? And the answer is absolutely. As long as you get their H-1B filed within 60 days of their being laid off. The problem is, because premium processing is not available, people who are not already in that 60-day grace period would be subject to unlawful presence. Now their status may ultimately be forgiven and reinstated, but that's quite a risk. And technically they can't start working. The regulations are a little unclear on this, but I don't think they can start working until the H-1B is actually approved. Last question is 180-day rule applying to all H-1Bs who lost jobs or were terminated or laid off? And the answer is, the 180-day rule is not really a rule. It is a rule, but it's not a grace period, which people sometimes mistake. That 180-day rule simply says this: if somebody is unlawfully present, unlawful presence is a term of art. I have a very detailed discussion on what is unlawful presence in our April 16th community conference call. I spent a lot of time on that. Information is also available in our frequently asked questions on immigration.com. What is unlawful presence? But unlawful presence of less than 180 days causes you no harm, but unlawful presence of 180 days bars you from coming back to USA for up to 3 years, for 3 years. There is a waiver available for those 3-year bars called 212D3 waiver. It's a little uncertain in the times of Trump. It used to be relatively a lot easier, but it is definitely an option. So even people who are barred for 3 or 10 years may be able to get a waiver and come back and start working in USA. I hope it helps. Good luck, guys. I forgot to add a couple of things. One was the fact that if you have a concurrent H-1B, one full-time and one part-time, if you lose your full-time job, you are still in status as long as you're working on your part-time H-1B. And that gives you a lot of time to apply for another H-1B as and when another opportunity for a full-time H-1B arises without worrying about the grace period. Because there is no grace period requirement here, you already got a job. The second thing I wanted to point out is about the 180-day period. For H-1B people or for anybody who's covered by any grace period, including F-1 people, the 180-day unlawful presence begins to run on the date your grace, or after the date your grace period ends.